Today, Benji and I will be presenting the world food industry. We're going to be talking about the global food supply, demand trends, costs in the production of food, the revenue streams, societal developments, macro changes, the role of globalization, issues with centralization, market sizes, and the role of cryptocurrency in the food industry. So Benji, I'll let you take it away.
Sounds good. And I'll give a quick introduction. I'm Benjamin Nasberg. I have been involved with the restaurant industry for 18 years now. I'm currently the CEO of Carbone Restaurant Group, which we are a leading ghost kitchen and franchising business based out of Canada. We're currently scaling into international waters by way of scaling our plant-based ghost kitchens that we're partnering with celebrities and high-profile companies to make a bigger impact and provide restaurants additional orders that are profitable by way of third-party delivery, while also providing the consumers a delicious plant-based offering that will help the transition to a more sustainable world. So I've been vegan for about 7 years, and I've been investing in crypto for as many years as I can remember. And I'm very excited to be presenting today with the team. And with that, I will get right into it. So with the global food supply and demand, with an increase in the trends in cost and population revenue streams, I'm just going to pull up my own slide here just so I can keep in line. So with an increase in the world population, sustainability concerns and uneven income growth, along with food security, has been and continues to be a driver for social and political priorities. Increasing total food availabilities is key, satisfying the increased diversification of consumer baskets and meeting the high quality standards, all while keeping food affordable. The world population is continuing to grow, as we all know, at a 2% rate. And since then, the world population from the 60s to 80s, since then we've increased to a 2.5 billion in population, which is expecting to surpass now 7.9 billion by 2025. And in 2019, we hit 7.7 billion. Population growth is and will remain a driver for food demand in the future, and at a closer rate to 1%. Still, it is not the sole driver, as per capita consumption has also been increasing at a rapid pace.
And I'm going to take over to talk about the global food supply and demand and the food production. So in production costs, typically it's called farm value of food, and they comprise about 20% of the final food cost. Now, this percentage varies by type of food, depending on how highly processed it is or if it's a perishable type of food. We're now going to look at the differences over the last decade. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the right slide.
All the slides look so good.
We're here. Sorry. So, yeah, farm value. Many factors influence how much the food industry charges for its services. Food industry input costs, profits, productivity. They're all largely determining of the price of the food, of the final product. And in the last decade, at-home prices are expected to increase in the last year. At-home prices are expected to increase between 2.5 and 3.5%. And some studies suggest that this is due to the pandemic getting in the way of the food production. Benji, on global revenue?
Yeah, so global revenue continues to increase in the restaurant space. Currently, it's estimated to reach for 2020 a $1.2 trillion figure, and this has continued to thrive at 1.7 trillion in the US alone by 2027. And just to give a little bit more merit as well, transition to online delivery, which we'll get into, and ghost kitchens and virtual brands, is also expected itself to reach globally a $1.1 trillion market over the next 10 years. So the restaurant revenue is going to be the restaurant revenue is not going anywhere, even with the pandemic. It's just a simple transition of how the food's being prepared and where it's consumed. So the restaurant industry is remaining in any environment. It's simply, in my belief, more of a quick service and or delivery friendly approach with incorporating robotics.
So let's look at food science developments. Food science is a really interesting topic because this is where a lot of innovation comes into the industry. Basically what food science is, it's their nutrition interventions, which are planned actions to introduce new goods and services that have a purpose to improve the nutritional well-being of certain foods. So there are 5 major breakthroughs that we're going to be looking at today, which have been discovered by a group of universities. So the first one is a functional drink, and it's believed to help prevent chronic and non-communicable disease such as type 2 diabetes. It's labeled a green drink because it's free from any harmful sugars, additives. It's got a high content of omega-3s, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. After this, so there's this green drink. The second point is meatless meats. I'm not sure if you've heard of these, but Beyond Meat and Impossible Meat are 2 major pioneers in the industry. And basically it's plant-based meat that imitates and tastes and mimics the texture of real meat. And alongside plant-based meat, scientists have also been working on developing lab-grown meat. That remains a bit of a ethical question, but engineers are progressing on that end. And recently in Singapore, there's been the first case of lab-grown meat, I believe. The third point is CBD oils. So those are cannabidiol, so from the hemp plant, but they don't have the hallucinogenic properties. They are solely used to relieve anxiety and pain, as well as it's been proven to help with epileptic seizures in some patients. And the fourth point, which I find transcending really and incredibly interesting, is these seaweed water capsules that help prevent plastic pollution. So to reduce the number of plastic bottles used in marathons, and in particular, this is when it came out is during this year's London Marathon, volunteers were handing out biodegradable water capsules to runners instead, and over 30,000 capsules were handed out to runners who could either consume them or throw them away, and it wouldn't have an impact on the environment. They're completely sustainable, they biodegrade, and they're made from nature itself. So it's a full cycle, and it doesn't leave a CO2 footprint. So it's a great solution that was brought forward through the food science developments. And I'm going to add one last point, which sort of blew my mind. 3D printers. For those of you who haven't heard, 3D printers can now print food. Now, it's not so common yet, but it's in the future of the food industry, and it's very exciting and very promising to help with alleviate food famine or help certain countries that are in development and don't have access to as many resources. Let's look at the biggest food production companies.
Yeah, and I could jump on there, and just to add, Jenna, because I love that slide on the scientific side. I love seeing how the research is being focus now on what food can do versus what medicines can do, because food is medicine at the end of the day. And with eating, the majority of your meals plant-based, more organic. If you're going to eat meat, eat clean meat. I think I think that the lab grown meat, if there has to be meat, then that's the way to do it. Because you are what you ate. So if you're not sure what uh, again, if the animals are being fed, antibiotics and things that are not going to give you the best lifespan or best health, you're taking in those carcinogens and whatever else the animals are feeding, plus the stressful environments they're in. So I believe if you're going to eat meat, it should be going in that direction. It seems to be that enough money is going into that space. But the plant-based meat industry is so solid that, I mean, I can't even tell the difference between.
Yeah, 100%. We've tried some blind tastings. So I didn't give an introduction about myself, but I'll quickly jump in on your spot, Benji, to add on and touch on that point. We actually did some blind tastings at a cafe franchise I own here in Bali, called Cafe Organic, and the purpose of the experiment was blind tasting. People were aware that there was going to be plant-based meat and actual meat, and really the results were astonishing. No one could tell the difference. So plant-based meat has done an incredible job, but also with lab-grown meat, as you said, not only does the lab-grown meat not have the added antibiotics, but also hormones, the growth hormones, which, as we know, hormones are the siege of human biological health, and there is not enough research on it, and it's a bit of a divergence, but most health issues, and in women especially, come from the contraceptive pill and all that relying on hormones. So having ethically lab-made meat, we would benefit from not having the added hormones, the antibiotics, and, as you said, the extra stress on a holistic perspective that you would then ingest from the animal experiencing that at the time of death. I'll let you continue on the production companies.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the production side here, it's always good to see who the leaders are in the game, because they're also the ones, directing what food, so to speak, should be consumed by the mass population. So I think as we become more conscious as a whole, everyone will now demand from these large players what food is being marketed and how it's being done. So hopefully these conglomerates will, take into shape, removing plastic, removing sugars, getting rid of the obesity issues, and really focusing on what food is and should be. Because these companies, at the end of the day, they're all drug companies. They're feeding us food that's filled with drugs or and causing control issues. So we need to ensure that they're being mindful. And I feel that there's, the more conferences, the more the discussions are had, the more clarity will be given to the masses, and we'll see some drastic shifts. But clean foods, key for society to strive. And right now there's, a very limited supply. As we know, the food supply chain is getting hit right now. And that's even for, the major countries. It's only a matter of time where the cookie will crumble. So we need to address this now and really find sustainable ways to live our lives and grow our food. So it's a never-ending conversation, but I feel like we're making progress.
So let's take a look at globalization of food and cuisine. So a recurrent and big question in this topic is whether these changes are positive or negative. And in fact, child malnourishment is at an all-time low, and it's still in decline, thanks to globalization, because of the sharing of farming techniques and machinery. So despite the largely increasing population, there is a decline in famine and malnourishment. And it's also aiding to ensure food security and global human health. There is a little flip side to globalization. The spread of obesity and an unhealthy diet has come out from globalization through certain fast food franchises and things like that. So hopefully, with the global awareness again, we'll see a turnaround with that.
And yeah, I think even from the franchising side, because that's one of our specialties as well, it's interesting to see how, you know, the big players, McDonald's of the world, are still growing at rapid rates, and you know, but there's still so much opportunity to grow into the sustainable food space and make an impact. So a lot of mission driven franchises are, you know, the way we see the world taking shape now, and that's essentially what we're doing with our company, because it's just a matter of, you know, getting the facts are out there. It's just a matter of educating and providing the solution, so it's convenient as clicking a button on your phone. So the it, the world will be good in the end, as long as there's more people like us pushing change. Otherwise, the other slide, seeing the big players, are going to not make a shift until we're asking and demanding for it. So that is all I say about food franchising on the global side. But there's the more sustainability that's demanded by the consumer side, the more the big players will have to force change. And currently, it's allowing the smaller groups out there to make a big impact and get some rapid traction for growth, because there is a demand for it. It's just the convenient factor needs to be met before the masses take on. We can jump onto the next slide there, Jenna. I don't have control.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right. So the issues with centralization of food production and distribution in the modern day. So with political change, it can precede agricultural centralization. The economic assertion that industrialized agriculture, with its rapid centralization of ownership and control over land and food, frees the remainder of society from toiling the soil to pursue affluence. So rather, it alienates and opposes the society's inhabitants. Over the past centuries, the global shift from industrialization to agriculture is arguably as important for our world order as the emergence of agriculture itself 10,000 years ago. So this is definitely something that needs to be addressed to allow for sustainability across the board to take place, because how we eat is definitely one thing, but how we grow is going to be key. So it's very all these things get me excited to talk about, because there's so many big problems to solve. It's just a matter of, you know, how long it's going to take. And I see that with the technology and the information out there, we can make that change happen a lot faster than we would have many years ago.
So let's look at restaurants' appetite for cryptocurrency. I don't know if some of you have heard, but recently in Turkey, there has been a bit of a scandal as a lot of operating businesses were using Bitcoin as a currency, and then Bitcoin got banned, and that created a lot of movement around the media because people are becoming more and more open to a decentralized system. And despite Bitcoin being an ownerless currency, which sort of scares some people off because we're so used to centralized constructs essentially, and Bitcoin doesn't have any legal basis in any country. Despite all of that, it's still been really embraced and widely promoted through the internet on a global scale. And according to the latest data, the global value of Bitcoin in circulation amounts to $86 billion, which places Bitcoin well ahead and every other currency at this point, but it's closely followed by Ethereum. So I believe, in fact, what happened was Ethereum was a second currency adopted by businesses in Turkey when the ban occurred. And with the scandal, when the government placed the ban on Bitcoin, it wiped over 4% off the value of Bitcoin. That morning, the the trading price went from $61,000 to 50,900. And oh no, sorry, it went down from $61,000 to, it went from $64,000 to 61. My bad. Yeah, and also Ethereum dropped by 6%. So the ban sort of scared a lot of people off, but nonetheless, an equal amount of parties were pro cryptocurrency and were pushing for it to come back on, and they can see the value in it. We'll talk more about the value in a couple of the next slides. Well, in the next slide, in fact. So let me expand on this. We see that blockchain can improve food quality and safety. It can provide transparency for restaurants and customers, and it makes food delivery potential faster and more secure. But let's look at how that actually happens. So we all know that the terms Bitcoin and blockchain have been dominating the news, and there's several reasons as to how they benefit restaurants. One, with quality and safety, it speaks to both food quality and safety because we're able to trace back if an issue happens. So let me give you an example of, for instance, if chicken that comes from a specific farm is contaminated with salmonella, blockchain could trace the product throughout the distribution cycle, and then a notification can be sent to those restaurants that receive the tainted product, the chicken that was contaminated. And that can then potentially save the restaurant's reputation, and it would prevent them from serving it. Currently, large companies like Walmart are testing farm-to-store tracking on food using blockchain with the intent to increase food safety. So that's how it can benefit the quality and the safety of a restaurant. Provide transparency through blockchain smart contracts and food assertions. So restaurants are in direct contact with the end consumer and therefore have a better idea of what they want. If a restaurant market itself in a particular way, as a vegan establishment, for instance, or one that only sources from local farmers, from ethical businesses, they want the ability to back up these claims and to ensure that their suppliers do so well, and that it's not that there's no lies involved, that the supplier is actually sticking to what they're claiming. The other way that it helps restaurants is through, for instance, quality reviews. So here again, it prevents false and misleading reviews. That would be a problem for both the restaurant and the customer. Because reviews can be written without knowing the identity of the author, and it's difficult to know which comments are honest and which are fabricated to help or hurt an establishment, or for instance, to just receive a free product in a restaurant. So companies like Munchie and Synchrolife are looking to change that. Both platforms reward reviewers with cryptocurrency tokens for contributing reviews on restaurants, because the reviews are stored in the blockchain and they can't be altered. And users in restaurants can't delete or create a new account or wipe away a bad review or get leveraged into doing so. And this keeps reviews honest.
And those are great points. And I think that the rise in restaurants for blockchain is one, and then there's the rise for blockchain on restaurants, making it an investment portal to get involved with restaurants based off of whether it's a certain brand you like or a certain concept you want to create. You can leverage the tokenization blockchain for the investment angle as well, which is something that we've been working on, as you know. But it's fascinating to see it all come together, and on and in the business.
Sorry, I've got two more points to talk about here. Food delivery is also improved thanks to the blockchain for the restaurant industry, because it helps ensure that the food is delivered in high quality, um, and it allows for checks from sources to the restaurant itself, customers, and that will in turn increase um, or encourage the customers to order from food delivery services. And cloud kitchens have been increasingly popular during the pandemic. Obviously, with all of the lockdowns imposed, they offered an oasis of options for people who don't necessarily know how to cook at home. And so yeah, the blockchain also benefits on that end of things, because the reviews, again, with food delivery can't be altered. And security is maintained by checking the credentials of the restaurant. So all around, just helpful and being more transparent and more honest. And last point is it's virtually hack proof, because the data collected through blockchain, as we all know, it being decentralized, it can't necessarily be hacked, or fraud or bugs or inaccuracies. Because even if someone does try, we could easily identify who the potential hacker or hacker to be is.
Those are all fantastic points.
And we will close this presentation off with the amazing resource that UNIT is offering to the people by creating a food token to support the food industry. As hopefully most of you already know, with the tokenization, with the process of tokenization and tokenizing not only industries, but individuals and entities, we're able to, one, from a buyer's perspective, support a brand or company that we're a fan of and want to support through buying their token simply. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're passionate about a certain cuisine or a certain restaurant concept or an ethic, you can now create and make your dream come true through tokenizing it by receiving funds to then place into the bank and the treasury. And I'll let Benji expand on the role of the food token.
Yeah, so an investment into the food token and this industry as a whole will allow for more involvement and upside in this transition. As we know, food needs to be sustainable. The restaurant industry needs to align with it, and consumers as well. So at the end of the day, just giving clarity and allowing, a dollar amount going into the food token or the restaurant token will catapult, because restaurants, as we bring them on to tokenize them from an investment angle, allowing them to also operate with blockchain and the currencies that we deploy, the sky's the limit, or I'd say the galaxy is the limit, because there is no limit with food. We're going to need to address these concerns, and investment into the space will allow for that to take shape much faster.
I'll quickly jump on because we're running out of time. We have to leave this space to the next room. But just to answer Vanessa's question, at the moment, so Vanessa's question, I'll read it out. Do you know of a case of using a token to fundraising to invest in a building for responsible good business or restaurant? And in fact, myself with Cafe Organic, I'm tokenizing the cafe for its franchises, so people can then purchase, say if we were to open in Brazil, we would do the Cafe Organic Brazil token, and people can then purchase that token and be a shareholder. But also with UNIT, we're creating an array of cloud kitchens, all plant-based as well, with very ethical practices. We're making sure to also shop locally, local farmers, organic, and with sustainability in mind, whether it's through packaging or the way the food is prepared. So those cloud kitchens will also be tokenized. They're going to be the first example of real life businesses that are supported by tokens.
That's going to be very exciting. That's aiming to launch that in the coming weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got tastings to finalize the product, make sure that the quality is on point this week, and then we're going to get on to the next steps, and hopefully we can get that ready soon and scale it across Bali and then Asia, and slowly make our way around the world and create a more sustainable and plant-based future.
Love it.
Thanks everyone for watching. Does anyone have any last minute questions? I think we have to leave.
It's been a pleasure, Jenna, and thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks to the unit team. Excited to be on this journey.
Thank you, everyone.